welcome, guys.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for having
Yeah,
us.
thanks for having us.
No, thanks. This is going to be one of the more interesting Leaders Who Care series conversations that we've had, and one that I love. Number one, because I love dogs, and I kind of like you guys too, but really more about the dogs. And
It's all
It's always about the dogs. We totally get
it.
it. It is in our life.
so let's start like this. If you can briefly introduce yourselves, who you are, your family, and we'll get into where you are right now, and then we'll get into the rest of the stuff and chat about it as we go along. How's that?
Sounds great.
Sounds good. Well, I'm Christina. This is Sean. And then we have a 2-year-old golden retriever, Nash, who is
We'll get him to say
very
hi.
food motivated. Nash, you want a carrot? Oh, come
Yeah,
here.
He was sleeping.
Nash likes carrots. Hi, Nash.
We love-
Nash.
Yeah.
Come here.
Come
There we
here.
go.
Oh,
Hi, Nash.
Nash is 85 pounds, so he's very big,
Yeah.
and he doesn't love being tousled about. So,
Especially after a nap.
especially after a nap. But anyway, we're coming to you from our RV. We're sitting in San Antonio, Texas right now, and we are on the second stop of a 15-city tour throughout 2021. It's called the Pause for Love Tour, and we are going out into the communities and spotlighting therapy dogs locally in each city, and encouraging others to get their dogs trained and certified and out into their communities and loving people. We just really saw throughout the pandemic, there was just so much pain and fear and just anxiety and depression that people were really struggling with. And we knew that with therapy work, we could do something about that. So we sold 90% of our stuff, and here we are.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you can hear Nash.
He's drinking his water now. But yeah, we've had our share of entrepreneurial endeavors, and this for us was very much a passion project and something we knew we had to do. There was no ignoring it. And we're happy to accept the challenge. And like Christina said, sold most of our stuff and got an RV, and here we sit in San Antonio, Texas.
So where are you guys originally from?
So I grew up in Indiana predominantly. I lived in Iowa for a little bit, but most of my youth was spent in Indiana, just on the north side of Indianapolis.
I am originally also from Indiana. Technically, we're all from Indiana. Sean started in Iowa, lived in Indiana. I grew up in Northwest Indiana near Chicago, and
We got
Nash is from
Nash.
Sheridan, Indiana.
Yep, just north of Indy, about an hour.
All right. Have you done ancestry or any of that to find out where everybody is ancestor?
We've done it through siblings, but I've heard that even that isn't accurate, that you have to do it yourself. So past that, we haven't, but most of our family is Irish and then Hispanic. So we're technically, there's a thing called an Iracan, which is what we are, Irish and Mexican. So
Entonces,
pretty interesting.
¿Hablas español un poquito o no?
No,
No, it's been on
I
our
want
list
to.
of things we want to learn
Yeah.
very, very badly, though.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, you can start by un poco. Say,
There you go.
Yeah.
So,
There you go.
so from your entrepreneurial background, and diverse experiences in the types of entrepreneurships that you've done, it seems like you're almost always looking to create a positive difference, especially around health and well-being, and offering products and services that are beneficial to people, and even a couple that are beneficial to like people like Nash over there.
Our four-legged friend.
Share with us, first of all, I'm always interested in the why, but I'd like to ask it a different way. Why do you guys do what you do?
Well, I would say the typical response that I have is I'm the world's worst employee. So I had to find a way to do my own thing. And that's initially how I looked at it in my very early 20s, right after I left college. But it really was years after that I really identified I had an actual purpose in what I was doing. And I was called to create, and I was called to be a visionary. And that was what I thrived in and what I needed to do to be successful. And so it was just one of those things where if you have that innate ability to see something down the road and the ability to execute against it, you could do virtually anything you wanted in any industry at any point in time. Granted, as we all know with entrepreneurship, there's a dash of luck in there and timing and those sort of things. But from a skill set standpoint and what you're pursuing, you can really go any direction that you wanted. So what I found to be kind of my sweet spot personally, this is just me speaking, is I really had a passion for finding customer experiences that were outdated, listening to that market, listening to the voice of the customer, and finding a way to deliver that exact thing back to them in the way that they're asking for, and then find a way to scale it with some sort of competitive advantage to make sure that, you know, someone can't come along and replicate overnight what you're doing. And that's really where I've stayed over the last couple of businesses, and it's worked really well. And it was you know, just kind of the foresight, I guess, of certain markets to know and be a little bit ahead of the curve and then go and executing against it. But at the end of the day, you've got to have purpose behind what you're doing. Otherwise, you kind of get lost in what you're doing, and you lose a lot of passion and motivation and energy, and it just drains you more than fulfills you.
So it sounds like you had the novel thought of actually listening to the customer.
Call me crazy.
So Christina, you guys had different entrepreneurships, including 2 for dogs. Can you share a little bit about your involvement in that?
Yeah, well, for me, I mean, even stepping it back one more is for me, like my passion and my why, it's all about people and community. And about 5 years ago, we had just moved from San Diego back to Indianapolis. And we had lost our golden bow. And it was very, very, it happened very quickly, very unexpected. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And we felt really lost after that. And so Sean had encouraged me, being the entrepreneur that he is, he was like, why don't you, because at the time Instagram was still so new. He's like, why don't you start an Instagram account for dogs and, you know, just start sharing content that makes you happy. And I was like, I can do that. So I started doing that without any idea what it was going to grow to. So I started Daily Barker 5 years ago, and it has grown. We have over 544,000 followers. And I kept it just all about people.
Hang on. I got to ask you, were they all people?
Yeah, I haven't spent a penny in any type of advertising.
But I wanted to know if all the followers are people or actually dogs or cats.
Right. Oh! There's a lot of dog accounts, yeah.
A little bit of both. A lot of people that have dog accounts, which I love following them. I just think that spreads so much joy. So for me, it started just with really as a way to heal with Daily Barker, and then it turned into, which is my heart, is people, and just bringing people together for just very intentional, purposeful connection. And the Daily Barker has very much grown. We had the Instagram channel. We launched a blog, which had over 60 contributors from all across the world. We had
really cool.
It was really amazing. We had people from Australia, London, the US, everywhere writing for Daily Barker. And we all did it for free. Mm-hmm. And so people would write, I would edit, I would schedule the post to go live and promote them on social media. And it was just because we love that interaction. We wanted to provide people a platform to be able to share their really just their thoughts, and it was beautiful. So we did that, and then we scaled back from that, and now, as you had shared, we launched Nashies, which is our single ingredient dog treat company. We launched that in May of 2020, so right after COVID really hit hard, and we decided to give all of our profits back to therapy dog nonprofits. So again, just really going back to loving people.
Yeah, so things I noticed there, this is a Leaders Who Care series. People get attracted to and they respond to people that care. And obviously that's what happened with your Instagram. You put out something that's important and dear to people's hearts, and they saw it was authentic, so they cared. And it's funny how don't you find, you said a dash of luck before. I think it's more a bucket of energy that goes out there, positive energy, instead of a dash of luck that makes things happen. And I wanted to ask you, you know, you had different entrepreneurial ventures, but you did have Pet Box. That was before Nashies, way before, right? Mm-hmm. So was this always knowingly or unknowingly going to be about dogs sooner or later?
Well, it's a good question. And I think it's one of those things that it definitely follows you as you go through your career, because in between that, we did a wedding venue company and we had several locations across the country and did it over a sequence of years. So we sold Pet Box in 2015, and then started scaling 828, the wedding venue company, in the middle part of 2017. So there was definitely a couple year gap there. And then, leading up to 2020 with the wedding venue business. I think the reality is, though, with dogs specifically, we saw something that we had never seen before, which wasn't until 2019, which was when we started serving with Nash in the capacity as a therapy dog. And we as a team, the three of us, went out to serve our community in Nashville. There was a switch that flipped that was just, it's so hard to even describe, but you actually saw how and why a dog was put on this earth. You literally saw their purpose once you got out of the, we'll say, consumerism for yourself, to have that dog for yourself, but then to open up and share that dog with other people that were either hurting or, whatever the circumstance was. Even just walking down the street in our neighborhood, somebody having a smile on their face getting to pet Nash, like, it just totally changed the game. And that's always been in our minds and in our hearts. We just didn't have definition around it until we were like active and attentive, and we were out there doing that. And then all of a sudden it just totally flipped. So I don't think it's serendipity or chance or anything that we find ourselves back in the pet industry. I think that's where we're supposed to be from the beginning, frankly. And with the dog piece of it, and the therapy dog very specifically piece of it, that's our sweet spot. And we know that we are called to live into that passion and live into the serving of that, and live into helping other people follow the path that we did as well.
You make me think of, I don't know if I ever shared this with you, the dog shelters here in California are pretty well empty, the shelters, and there was semi-joke around. You made me think of it when I was trying to tie in the wedding one with the dog, see how I can find tying in.
Yeah.
They were encouraging single people to get dogs for company during COVID, but
Yeah.
they were encouraging couples to get a dog so the dog would prevent them from killing each other.
Dogs just have such a sweet way of bringing joy.
Yeah, they really do.
There's actually, not to go too much, there's a great commercial on TV too. Maybe tell you this about this young girl's going to get chemo. It might be St. Jude or something. I'm going to get chemo, and she says, "Oh, another day of chemo." And the nurse says, "We're going to do something different." And a Saint Bernard walks in and peers into her eyes, and then puts his big head on her lap, looking right into her eyes.
Yeah.
And you can tell her well-being went up on steroids, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you'll have to share the story about the dog that goes with patients when they're going to surgery that you met. So just to like set the stage here, what we're doing is we are in this RV traveling the country, and we are seeking out stories of how people use their dog to serve their community in the capacity of a therapy dog. And so we've been in Houston, we're now in San Antonio, we're headed to Austin after here. And we've already met so many incredible people doing incredible things, but very specific to what you're saying, Christina has a really cool story with that.
So we're actually going to be doing an interview with her tomorrow. So you'll have to stay tuned, because we'll be uploading all of our interviews to our YouTube channel as individual interviews. So this gal that I now know, who is so wonderful, she has a little doggy named Hazel. And Hazel serves in a variety of different capacities, but one of the main ones is working in the children's hospital. And she's a little Frenchie, but she actually can sit, she has approval to sit on the bed with a kid while they're getting wheeled into the OR.
Wow.
And it just changes everything. Like, I have personally never had a surgery, but I can imagine the nerves, especially for someone so little who doesn't reason things like we do as adults, how scary that is for them, and how much she really does change the outcome of even that surgery by just helping them be relaxed going into that. And that's just one dog. Like, there's thousands of dogs across this country and across this world doing this incredible work. Same dog also serves with military families. She serves their children. She meets with them. Now with COVID, I think their meeting schedule is a little bit different, but she was meeting with them really regularly. And the kiddos that are in this program, they have a parent who's been deployed and who's fearing that their mom or dad isn't going to come home, that they're going to get really hurt. Like, all of those emotions are very valid. And just by being there, she really helps alleviate so much. And they've actually been able to partner older kiddos that have been a part of a military family for years with the younger kids that are newer. So almost they can set up a mentor program. So not only has Hazel helped, they've also created partnerships and mentor systems within there to help.
The dogs are mentoring the dogs?
Well, mentoring the people.
Right.
But
No.
the people that are mentoring
Right.
the olders are mentoring the youngers.
Well, and that's the you know, the interesting piece about what we've learned as we've been doing this is the dog is really, like, I hate to call it a gimmick, but it's kind of in that vein. It's there to provide a way to break the ice and a way to facilitate human to human interaction, and in a way to do that in a comfortable way that just the dog naturally can de-stress somebody, reduce anxiety. But then you, as the person behind the dog, with the dog, is there to then take it to that next level and actually, you know, provide healing and help people in situations that need it.
Yeah, I think so many points there. I love the surgery thing, because usually they don't let the parent in. So the dog
Right.
being there is just, again, I go back to energy, just, it's not just being there. There is an energy that goes out from, and in fact, our hearts
Absolutely.
exude way more energy than we even imagine, more than our minds, out to people. So the dog does give that, and even the way they look at you, it's been incredible. It's interesting also, you talk about military. When I was at the U.S. Air Force Base in Colorado Springs, they actually have a dog mascot, if you will, a real dog that says hi to people and everything, and even hands out his own playing cards, like like cards. Boris Adley hands out his own cards to the kids and everything.
Yeah.
It's amazing stuff. So what is let's go back to Nash for a second. What is Nash's influence, background, participation in this? Let me ask you that first.
Well, I mean, I think for us, really his influence, if you will, started by, well, I'll even take it one more step back. When we had our last golden bow, we knew he would have been an incredible therapy dog. The reason we didn't do therapy work with him is because he had really bad hips and knees. So it just wasn't fair for him to be walking extensively like he would have been. So we knew when we got our next dog that we wanted to do therapy work. So we got Nash. Daily Barker was flourishing, and we were like, okay, we're going to do this when he gets a little bit older.
Once we get him trained.
Once we get him trained and all that, because we were doing a lot of the training, the basic training at home, because we had the time, we had the flexibility, and we had the interest, because we wanted to create that bond with him. So, like it or not, he was going to be a therapy pup, unless his personality was just wildly not a fit, which is a goal.
He didn't apply for the job. He was just taken for the
He got recruited.
He did. He absolutely did. He's such a love. When you meet him, like, you can't help but just smile, because I just feel like he oozes joy. Like, he's so wonderful. So, we started doing a bunch of training with him, and we just saw instantly, just when Sean had mentioned this earlier, but people would pass us on the street and they would just smile. And that was when Sean and I were like, okay, this is real.
We have to do it.
It would be selfish for us to keep him to ourselves. So we knew we wanted to volunteer as a family. And so we just started working with him, and we got him trained, went through all the steps, and started serving in Nashville. And really his influence has been just wildly positive.
Yeah, and I'd say more on us, which is kind of weird to say, but it's impacted us more than it has the people that we're serving. Because, we'll be consistent in meeting with people multiple times and going to an after school program, that sort of thing. So you get the repetition, which is definitely important. But for us, it's really changed our hearts and just how we view a level of empathy that we hadn't quite had before, which I know sounds a little bad, but it takes you a layer deeper that you didn't even know that you had.
Well, and it puts you in a situation with so many other people that you don't necessarily, like, they live so, like, some people live so differently than you in so many capacities, and it makes you think a lot deeper, and it really makes you step back and be like, okay, really, truly, you hear the statement, everyone's going through something you don't know, but it's so true. We have no idea what someone's facing, a diagnosis that someone has had, and so to really step back and just love them and be kind is so crucial.
No matter what.
No matter what.
Yeah, no, you're right on, because you see people walking and people will say hello to the dog before they'll say hello to the person.
Oh yeah.
And
Or they'll remember the dog's name
Yeah,
and not
not
yours.
the person's name.
oh, that's happened to me.
Oh yeah.
You're Brandy's dad, right?
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's happened to me as well. And I I've seen that a million times. I'd want you to chat a little bit about, one of the things you told me earlier on about the dog's purpose, and how there's been mental health issues, if you will, with the dogs themselves, that they're missing their purpose, and you can see it, they can feel it. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and that's, to be very honest, that's what really spurred this idea for the tour. Was we were sitting in April and then May of 2020, which April was the lockdowns everywhere, no matter what city you were in, and country, frankly. I mean, it was the entire world. And then May, people started to get their balance a little bit, and then you go into summertime. Well, still today, these dogs can't really go into hospitals. They're not going into schools. They're not going into the typical places that they're going. And you have these highly trained animals that have developed such a specific purpose to go comfort others when they've not only been trained, but they have a natural disposition to already do this just in their DNA. And then you sideline them and you put them at home with the people, locked down and not able to go out anywhere. Anybody, anything
Right.
that has that level of empathy is going to suffer in some capacity. And that's the sad truth about the mental health toll that this has taken, is it's real. And these dogs, we saw it. And it wasn't just us. We were seeing it in Nash. And then we started calling all of our other friends that were serving as well. And they were seeing the same thing. And then we branched out of that and we started calling other cities and talking with people from, we were in Nashville, Atlanta, and other places. And it was the same thing over and over and over. So we just kind of got to the point where, June and then July rolled around, and we basically said to ourselves, we have to do something about this. It's not a money problem. This is a challenge of entrepreneurship, of seeing a pain point and a problem and finding a solution for that. And the solution was, we just have to get creative. We know we can't go to a hospital. Like, there are inherent risks with that. We know it's not going to be possible. We know we can't go to a nursing home facility, but what can we do? Can we sit outside the window and say hello and have a cute dog there? What are the things that we could actually do? And that's where the whole genesis of the tour really came from. But yeah, they were and still are, going through depression themselves. And when they have that purpose and drive to, comfort other people, and you take that away from them, it's going to do just what it does to humans when you do the same thing to them.
Well, the dogs in California have therapists, because everybody in California has a therapist. Each dog has a therapist here too. But no, I found that fascinating and not necessarily surprising, but it's not like I ever thought about it before you brought it up.
Right.
And are they not, I know you're not allowed, would they be allowed in if a nurse took them in?
Well, so now it's getting a little more creative. So tomorrow we're going to a hospital system in San Antonio, and both of us can't go in. I'm going in because I'm doing the recording and shooting and the filming piece of what we're doing. So there are protocols that we had to take, leading up to that. But they're letting this gal in with her dog to walk around while we film. And if you were to rewind back to May or June, that was not going to happen at all. So it's starting to widen up a little bit. And that's really our point now at this point in where we are in this pandemic, and, with everything else to come forth in the next year, is we can't sacrifice this stuff anymore. So if there are certain high risk scenarios where you just can't go in, okay, we totally get that, but let's get creative and still find another way, because there's pain in every little place that you look. We actually just saw a story today about a teenager, I forget where it was, but he committed suicide because they haven't been able to go into the school, and he was an athlete, and he's been disconnected from his friends for so long. And obviously there's underlying issues there, mental health issues, but you have people that are truly hurting, and then they can't go out to get the solution of help in whatever form that is, and you keep restricting them further and further. And that's where we just have to get creative with saying, okay, again, we know we have to follow protocols, we have to be safe about things, but it doesn't mean that we have to stop being human. And it doesn't mean that we have to just forget about everything else, pain-wise and health-wise, that's going on. We still have to step up and figure this problem out.
So
well, and I will also say,
no, go ahead.
I was going to say that there's also a lot of hospitals, specifically children's hospitals, that have therapy dogs that are employees of the hospital.
Right.
So just because we as outside volunteers can't go in, there are still doggy employees that go home at night, but their job is to be at the hospital. So there are still hospitals that have working therapy programs, but just not from outside visitors.
Right.
Yeah, I know a hospital that actually brought a small horse, which I guess would be a pony, in, and that horse would know which room to go into. Even it was quite amazing as to who was there or whatnot. It was like, I mean, that's a even though it was a pony, it's still bigger than a dog. It was actually quite incredible. I don't know why I thought of this now, but as a kid, we used to each have a chance to take a hamster home for a day or two when we were kids.
Okay.
Oh,
Little hamster, we each got a chance to take him home. Is that even possible for dogs to, in a community, stay one day, one night with a family?
So that's a really interesting question. The short answer is yes. And this is where the layers get a little deeper into what a therapy dog does, and certain interpretations of that is you do have dogs with multiple handlers. So there are cases where you have a dog that truly doesn't have an actual owner, and they have a series of owners that they rotate through and to, and they serve in different capacities, with whatever the function is that they're doing. I don't know that I've really heard, I don't know if you've heard of anything where a dog's gone home in that circumstance, like the hamster.
well, I think you have to think of it too, and not to say that hamsters are any less than dogs, but with a dog, I mean, they are still a living, breathing being. Like, they still need that. Like, we can't set up some type of
Rent a dog program.
Because like Sean says, there are many cases where one dog does have multiple handlers, but
Right.
they do go home to the same place at night.
Right.
And maybe that's not the case for every dog. There could absolutely be multiple homes. But from a consistency standpoint, I don't think, and this is my personal opinion, but I don't think a dog can perform optimally in therapy work if they don't have a consistent home base, home structure.
It's just like a kid.
Routine.
It's really no different.
Yeah. So yeah.
They do. There's been a lot of studies, at least for human beings, and I would assume it's for dogs too. That the thing that fills our hearts and souls more than anything is belonging. After food and water is belonging. So I can see if they're getting mental health issues from not being able to do the purpose, then not having that home base or belonging somewhere, I could see that too. Are there any specific breeds of dogs that are better for service dogs, and whatever better means?
I mean,
I'm not sure.
So
let me preface with Sean saying is it's all personal preference.
Yeah.
So we love Goldens, but we do not see any one dog as being the best.
Right.
Right.
Well, and I think that's where bias is introduced. And,
absolutely.
And there is real science behind a Labrador retriever being very, very good for a service dog, which is going to be a dog that performs a certain function for a disability, such as somebody in a wheelchair that can't walk. They can go and pick things up and retrieve it for the person. Whereas a golden retriever, it's a little ironic, but most of them don't actually retrieve. But they do have a very high level of empathy, and they have a natural inclination to comfort someone in distress. And they do. We see it in Nash even. I mean, believe it or not, we get into an argument from time to time, and he'll know immediately. I mean, instantaneously, just the slightest little change of your voice, and he knows, and he comes over to both of us, and we call him our referee. But they're naturally dispositioned to that. But that said, I've heard it so many times, and I'm sure you have as well, and I'm sure everyone watching has heard this at some point. Rescue dogs, when you rescue them from a shelter, they know what you did, and those dogs are very, very great dogs in almost every single case, unless there was some sort of abuse or something ahead of that just traumatized them for life. But outside of that, they're extremely grateful and thankful, and they show you that every single day. So all dogs have this. It's just a matter of interpretation, frankly, of who you think is a better dog versus not.
Well, and I think too, let's even look at Hazel, like the doggie I was just talking about. She's a Frenchie, and there are a lot of Frenchies, that have personalities across the whole board. but Golden's too. It really does come down to training and the level, I think, in which the owner puts in, because there's a lot of learned behaviors out there. So
Yeah, well,
I
we
say,
had rescued a part lab, part something else, and as foster, basically fostering, because I travel a lot. We rescued her, and she had her issues and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, man, she was over grateful that we rescued her. You know,
Yeah.
it's fine. I'm fine with that over on when it comes to grateful
Of course.
part. It was pretty cool. So before we complete, what's the plan going forward? Like, where are you going? What are you doing? What's the whole plan?
Well, we're at this point spending the year on the road. So the year is 2021. So we'll be here through that. But I think we're already seeing signs that this might be a life calling for us, and I don't know that it's going to end. It's a little
the tour will end in December,
right, at some point. But yeah, we'll be spending 2021 through essentially as many states as we can and as many cities. We're really being smart about what we're doing and making sure that we're not planning too far ahead, to where if there are any future lockdowns or any issues that pop up, that we can be a little nimble with where we're going, and the timing of such, and ideally avoiding cold climates, which we have so far. So that's been good, so that we can do things outdoors and make sure that we're able to share the stories of these therapy dogs that we're coming across, and do that in an interview format and that sort of thing. So we're in Texas now. We're going to head west after here, which will be roughly the beginning of March. So we'll go up through Phoenix, Las Vegas, Salt Lake City, and then get up in the northwest part of the country, and then just start curving over towards the east as the summer months are nice and warm, and we're able to see some cool spots as well.
Is Nash going to help somebody at the casinos when they're in Vegas, or what?
I don't know. That'll be interesting.
If anybody out there has a connection to a casino in Vegas that wants a therapy dog, just call us up. We will serve anywhere that'll open their doors to us. We absolutely love therapy work, and I could see Nash just at a little slot machine with his little paws. So cute.
No, this is I am proud of you guys. This is I think a great cause, and I'm sure Dog Nation is cheering, right now for you, and keep us updated on what's going on and how you're doing, and we'll be cheering for you all along the way.
We really appreciate that.
We really do.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.